He never sat on the throne. He never wore the crown. But for nearly 3 decades, one man decided which kings would rule the most powerful empire in Yoruba land, and which ones would die trying to escape his control. This is the true story of Bashorun Ga'a, the prime minister who installed 5 kings, destroyed 4 of them, and came closer than almost anyone in African history to ruling an empire without ever claiming its throne. By the early 1700s, the Oyo Empire stood as one of the most formidable states in West Africa, a vast Yoruba kingdom whose political reach extended across thousands of towns and villages, commanding tribute from distant kingdoms and fielding one of the region's most feared cavalry forces. At the center of Oyo's government sat 2 competing sources of power: the Alaafin, the sacred king who ruled with near-divine authority, and the Oyomesi, a council of 7 hereditary kingmakers whose head, the Bashorun, effectively served as prime minister with the constitutional power to check the king himself. It's into this delicate balance of sacred kingship and elite council power that Ga'a was born sometime in the early 1700s into a family already positioned within Oyo's military and political elite. Ga'a's early career was built on the battlefield, not the palace. He rose through the ranks as a military leader during the reigns of 3 successive Alaafins, Giberu, Amuniweye, and Onisile, proving himself instrumental in several of the empire's military campaigns during a period when Oyo's power was actively expanding across Yoruba land. It was through this record of military competence and a reputation for ruthlessness that both allies and enemies came to respect that Ga'a built the foundation for what would become an extraordinary political career. His true turning point came in 1750, when the newly enthroned Alaafin Labisi appointed Ga'a as Bashorun, head of the Oyomesi. It was, on paper, an enormous honor. It was also, as history would soon reveal, the single most consequential appointment in the history of the Oyo Empire. What followed was one of the most audacious concentrations of political power in West African history. As Bashorun, Ga'a held constitutional authority to advise and, if necessary, check the Alaafin's rule on behalf of the Oyomesi. But Ga'a treated that authority as something closer to outright control. Over the following decades, he presided over the installation and eventually the destruction of a rapid succession of kings, each one finding that the throne of Oyo came with an invisible ceiling. The moment an Alaafin attempted to rule independently of Ga'a's will, that king's reign came to an abrupt and often violent end. According to oral historical accounts passed down through generations, Ga'a was widely believed to possess powerful supernatural abilities, feared not only for his political and military reach, but for a reputation of mystical power that made few in the empire willing to openly challenge him. Whether legend or embellishment, that reputation became a political weapon in its own right, reinforcing an atmosphere where defying the Bashorun felt like defying forces beyond ordinary human authority. One after another, Alaafins who tried to assert genuine independent authority found themselves removed through means historical accounts describe with a chilling consistency: forced suicide, a customary method by which the Oyomesi could compel a king judged unfit to end his own reign, sparing the empire the disruption of open civil conflict, but sparing Ga'a, notably, from ever needing to seize the throne outright himself. By ruling through kings rather than as one, Ga'a found a way to hold something close to absolute power while technically remaining within the bounds of Oyo's constitutional system, a system built specifically with checks designed to prevent exactly this kind of single-man dominance. He had, in effect, turned the empire's own safeguard against tyranny into the very mechanism of his own. And through all of this, remarkably, the empire didn't collapse. Under the brief reign of Alaafin Labisi, Oyo's influence reportedly reached new heights, drawing tribute from kingdoms as distant as Dahomey and the Ashanti, with over 6,000 towns and villages across Yoruba land falling under Oyo's political umbrella. The empire's military and economic machinery continued to function, even as its throne effectively answered to a prime minister who had never been crowned. This is perhaps the most unsettling part of Ga'a's story. He wasn't simply a warlord ruling through chaos and instability. He was, for a time, a stabilizing force, presiding over one of the most powerful periods in Oyo's history, all while systematically ensuring no king could ever grow powerful enough to threaten his own control. But every king Ga'a placed on the throne eventually learned the same lesson: rule quietly under Ga'a's shadow, or don't rule at all. 4 kings had already discovered this the hard way. And by the time a young, ambitious royal named Abiodun ascended toward the throne, Ga'a had every reason to believe this 5th king would be no different from the rest. Another ruler he could bend, control, and if necessary, remove. He had no idea he had just met the one king who wouldn't break. What Ga'a didn't yet understand was that this next Alaafin wasn't going to wait for the Oyomesi's traditional methods to play out. He was already building something Ga'a had never faced before: a quiet, patient alliance stretching far beyond the walls of the capital itself. One that would turn Oyo's own provinces and its own army directly against the man who had ruled the empire from the shadows for nearly 30 years. The Kingmaker was about to meet his final king. And this time, the crown wouldn't be the only thing at stake. Part 2 continues the story of Alaafin Abiodun's rise and the empire-shaking conspiracy that finally brought Bashorun Ga'a's reign to its end.